Hello and welcome to my channel and my video. So for this particular video, it will be one of the few rare ones that I do that won't be about a specific item or product. This will be focused on a personal experience that I had that was an accident that I had, I believe it was 2 years ago. I'm not really sure when, and this is why. So that was my last concussion that I experienced. I'm not going to go into detail on how I got my previous concussions, but it wasn't my first one. But because I've had multiple concussions and head trauma before, which I didn't really know because the data wasn't really out there, that this particular head trauma was incredibly painful. What I remember are fragments, so just bear with me. It was in the morning, I think, and what I remember was I was in extreme pain. I was like, it just, I can't even explain the pain. It was just unbearable and extreme. Also, I was incredibly angry, just so angry. Like if I was a cartoon, you could see smoke coming out of my ears and my nose, and probably on top of my head. It was and I don't know where the anger came from. When I went to the urgent care, what I remember was I was holding my head or parts of my head because there were more than one part that was hurting a lot. And I remember I was sitting in a very strange way. I don't remember how it was. And when we got in, everything was very bright. It was just blinding bright. You know how you see in movies when something is just completely blinding, like you're shot with this very bright white light and everything looks really hazy. That's how it looked like. I don't remember the doctor's face at all, even today. I remember he had dark hair and he was a man. I remember arguing with him because, you know, he's just a doctor and went through several years, multiple years of schooling and education and learning more about this. But, you know, I still argued because I believed I was right, which was really strange. I've never done that with, when I know someone has, you know, someone would know more than I would. But that was my reaction. He immediately, I guess from my, I don't know, looking back now, from my behavior, from my reactions, from how I just was, he immediately said, I believe you have a concussion and I believe you have whiplash. If there was something else, I don't remember. And I started arguing with him. I said, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I said a lot of different things. And then he tried to explain it to me, which I don't remember anything at all. I remember he did explain a lot of things to me. I think it was, he knew that I was in a certain state, that I had a head trauma, but he was also pretty attentive and very patient and explained everything very thoroughly. I mean, you know, I don't remember what he said, but I remember him doing that. It doesn't make any sense, does it? But that's the only thing I can remember. He then advised me, and I couldn't drive. I remember I was very scared on driving because my head was hurting so much, and I knew something was wrong, like very wrong. So I had my husband drive me, and they suggested a concussion clinic to go to, which I did periodically. I would go to this concussion clinic. They helped a lot. I did a lot of testing. I think I saw them on a weekly basis. They did a lot of testing. They made me, they checked my balance. They made me walk a straight line. They made me, it was always a lot of testing. It was tough because there were certain times, especially just right after my accident, that I couldn't remember my phone number. I couldn't even remember my name. Like, I knew it was there. I can picture the word, you know, I can picture the letters, but I couldn't articulate it. And that was very frustrating for me. And another part that was also very frustrating for me was my loss of memory. It would just, I would talk about something right now, and 30 seconds later, I would just completely forget what I was talking about. That was very frustrating for me because prior to this particular incident, I strided, and I was very proud of the fact that my memory was amazing. And I would have certain memories that I would remember, in which I would remember the whole entire room. I would remember the time of day. I would remember the smell sometimes. Like, I would remember what everybody else was doing. So when this happened, it was just frustrating for me. And there were a lot of tears involved just because I was so frustrated. I wasn't allowed to use any electronics. I wasn't allowed to use like an iPad, a phone, or a cell phone. I mean, just because my cell phone is a smartphone. If I had one of those really old non-smartphones, non-touchscreen phones, I think I could have used it. But having conversing with someone through text was a very challenging task. I don't even remember what I did on those days, but I was told to sleep. And I believe I was always tired as well. They gave me prescription medication due to severe pain I would get all the time. The pain was unbearable. The pain was so bad that sometimes the medication, because it takes a while. It takes about 20 minutes for medication to kick in. And the pain was so bad that nothing would help. And that amount of time when the pain starts and then I pop my pills and you wait until it takes effect and it helps with the pain. It was so bad that I couldn't even stop it. The tears was just like waterfalls. So it was very, very difficult for me, and it took like several weeks before I could go back to work. I believe that ever since then, there have been a lot of changes in my personality. There have been a lot of changes in how I react to things. I'm a lot more sensitive now in regards to visuals. For example, I see like something on TV. I know it's make-believe, but something inside me, it makes me relate to it to a point in which I can somewhat feel the pain. Before, that was just nothing. Like, I knew it was all make-believe. I knew it was just, you know, a part of the TV. It wouldn't make me feel queasy or react so drastically, but now it does. What the doctors have told me was the data that they've had, that you will get your initial improvement, that would be a huge step, would be after 1 year of your concussion. Now here's the caveat to that. If you bump your head, you get a fever, you get a cold, if you're sick in any way, all of your symptoms come back. Now your symptoms consist of sensitivity to sight, to brightness, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound, irritability, lack of patience, loss of memory. And if I forget, it's because of the loss of memory. Everything will go back, and it will feel as if I just had trauma or head trauma that same day. So everything is going back to zero. All you've worked so hard on, all you've tried to achieve and recuperate, and like, you know, you're trying to teach yourself, building up memories and all these things to, you know, to go back to how you used to be. Those will just disappear. So it's incredibly frustrating because a bump on your head, you go back to zero. A little bit of cold, a fever, a little bit of rash, and it's because everything in your body is now going to getting that better, instead of trying to heal you in your head. I did notice that, but it wasn't instantly, you know? Like if I got sick on a Monday and then I got better a few days later, and Monday, Tuesday, and how many days it was, what I remember is I will feel like a zombie. I would just feel not like myself. I would be very tired, very irritated. It would just be a complete change, and my memory would just go out the window. That would be the worst part. So I wouldn't realize it until like a few months later. Months. I wouldn't really remember, remember when I was sick a few months ago and I couldn't do a lot of things? It was because, remember what the doctor told me and all that? And my husband would be like, oh yeah. And I think because my husband has not really such great memory to begin with. So, you know, and I think he also kind of forgot about that part, or probably just didn't really want to bring it up to, maybe he just didn't want to irritate me at the time. But anyway, he would just be like, oh yeah, I do remember them saying that, and I do remember doing that. And also I couldn't drive because of the fact that I would have a hard time focusing and concentrating a lot. I would have difficulty reacting. I would, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm supposed to use my foot, my hands, all that stuff. It's still in there, and I know it's in there. But when I'm on the road, I know what step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is. However, even though I want to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, in that order, my body will just do what it wants to do. It will skip a few steps or not do them at all. And it's so frustrating because I'm trying so hard and concentrating and doing, okay, you have to do this, but then my body is doing the complete opposite or something completely different from what I wanted to do. So that was also something that I noticed. I wasn't allowed to drive by myself right away. I had to practice driving, and I had to have my husband next to me, and I could only drive a specific distance or time frame, and I could only do it specific number of times in a week. I think one time it initially started in a week, and there was just so many things that, the smallest things that you're thinking of, I couldn't do. The smallest things. And at the time, I don't remember who brought it up, probably me, because I usually, if I do forget, I have my husband there, and I would tell him, if I don't ask these questions, make sure you ask these questions. Because I wasn't ready or sure if I wanted to get pregnant at the time, but I wanted to cover my bases. So I thought I would ask what if in the future, if I wanted to get pregnant, what happens? Either I asked him that or the doctor voluntarily tell me that. But what I do remember was him telling me, if you do ever get pregnant, all of your symptoms come back. There's a possibility you won't even realize it. And when you get a normal pregnancy, the reaction to that, yours would be minimum maybe 10 times worse than that, due to the fact that you had this head trauma. To sum that up, I didn't realize all of that until I was somewhat in my second trimester. And before I got pregnant, I was sick every 2 to 3 weeks. I would go to the doctor every 2 to 3 weeks. So I just so there were a few months in there that I was, not only was I getting sick and all my symptoms were coming back, so my memory was also really, really, really horrible. After I got better from being sick constantly, I got pregnant. So it was just a lot of hits in that short amount of time. And so I know a lot of pregnant women feel that they, I was told at the doctor's office that there's a term called pregnant brain. You'd say one thing now, and then a few minutes later, you just kind of forget that. And that happens to me too. I think maybe it's the same. Maybe there's someone out there that's never had a concussion in their life, never had any head trauma, and then they also have the same experience. I don't really know if it ties with my concussion or not, but I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to share that part. I'm always, when I was always, let's see, I'm trying to make sure I'm writing, I'm getting everything down. So I did write it. So I think I provided what I could remember. I provided what the doctors have told me that I can remember. The data that they have, if I haven't mentioned it at the time, they only had tested multiple source, and that they believe is concrete, was they believe they've only studied to 1 year up to someone who's had a huge concussion, that the symptoms that I had was just the symptoms that you get were so severe that would be like a really big concussion, or that wasn't your first concussion. They only have a year of data. They don't have further studies. They don't have further hard data after the full year. And that really, really sucks, because I didn't realize it. And the doctor even mentioned, about 5 years ago, between 5-10 years ago, people will just give you 2 Tylenols and send you home. They would just say everything should be fine. And it wasn't until very recently that they've discovered that a concussion can actually kill you. And I believe that was between 5 to 10 years from today. Before that, they send people home, and then they don't know that a few days later, some people just start to die. It might not be in the 24, 48 hours. They said it could be after that, but they didn't know that. They just thought it was something else. Since their hard facts and data only last for a full year, what they've said was just take one day at a time. When I spoke with them, I wanted to improve really fast, because I was just incredibly frustrated, and I was always very angry and upset. And what I've noticed is when I do get angry, I feel like a different person. The anger is so uncontrollable, and it feels like a fire inside of you. I can actually feel the skin on my face and my ears literally heating up and burning. I've never had that kind of anger before. And I remember I could just, I feel the anger and I struggle with it. And I feel so exhausted after I'm fighting the anger. Because I've always tried to fight it every time, because I know that's not me, and I know that it's not right. I know all of that, but the compulsion and the intensity of it is so extreme. I have never experienced that before. It just unleashes itself, and you can't contain it. It is really, really, really hard. And I remember when I could concentrate to watch a show or a movie again, someone in my previous job suggested, why don't you watch that movie Concussion? And before she told me that, my husband also said, which I didn't know, he was doing his own research on it, because he felt like I was a completely different person, and he knew I was struggling on a daily basis. So he watched that Concussion movie, and when I could, I did watch it too, and it made a lot of sense that, brain itself is very sensitive and very fragile, and that's why we have, the whole protection of your skull for that. And it's just not made to experience head trauma. It's just not built for that, ever, and will be. If I didn't, I'll mention my symptoms again, and I'll try to sum it up. I just have notes here just to guide me to make sure I cover everything that I can think of. Symptoms is irritability, mood changes, no control on anger, no control. You get irritated so fast, and for whatever reason, it's like a wildfire. Certain things, everything, like your senses are extreme now. You're incredibly sensitive. Everything is heightened. Patience doesn't exist. Anger is in a level that you've never even imagined. It's a struggle every day, and sensitivity to, like, even indoor light, like even soft light. That's even like, it hurts my eyes, or it did hurt my eyes, and it does bother me a lot. Sometimes when someone talks to you, it just feels like you're watching something on TV, but then the volume is in mute. Like, you can see it, they're talking to you, and it just feels weird and different. Memory loss, anger out of nowhere, just out of nowhere, over the smallest things, and it is uncontrollable. And if the reason for it, or the cause of this anger or the severe emotion, like the irritability and stuff like that, if it doesn't disappear, especially if it's a person and they just don't stop what they're doing to put you in that position, your anger, your irritability, your annoyance, all of these get heightened in a fraction of a second. So if let's just say person B comes up to you and says, so and so and so and so, and then something in that particular phrase or sentence or statement irritated you or upset you or angered you, and person B, all they do is they just keep continuing in what they're saying, that particular level of the anger and the irritability, it builds up so fast. Like, it's just this, like, in one syllable, it probably just doubles or triples every time from the previous one. So it's that extreme. And sometimes it can be, let's just say a different person, person A. Person A comes up to you on a Monday and says something irritating or does something. Usually it's something they say. It's not something they do. Excuse me. They say something offensive to you at the time, upsetting, hurtful, irritating in that perspective. Maybe your first response is, because person A just stopped with that one thing, the buildup of the irritability and the anger just stays, let's just say, level 1. Well, person A on day 3 or Wednesday, or even day 2 or day 4 or day 5 or even a week after, says something crazy to you or similar in what they said the previous week. You're going to remember the emotion. You're going to remember the intensity of your reaction at the time. And it will double, triple, or quadruple. And let's just say 2 days later, person A says something stupid again, that your reaction was the same. Well, from the second time that person A irritated you, it's going to build from there. And it's either a double, a triple, or a quadruple from that. Not from the first time, but from the last time. And at a certain point, after person A has done this, it will just, like, it's like a loop in your head. It's over and over and over and over. It was like a repetition in your head over and over and over and over again. The fourth time, or the very next hour, or the very next day, the person A comes up and talks to you, or you just hear them talking. Because it has built up so hard that you don't start at 0, you just start at like 10,000. And this person, you can't stand them anymore. It's just, you don't know why, because all of your rationality is gone. You just know you don't like them anymore. You hate them. Mind you, these are things that person A has said. Some of them might be insensitive. But it's not something that is extreme, or, they didn't threaten your life. They didn't call you names. They weren't derogatory in any sense. However, to you, because everything is so heightened and sensitive, it is so horrible. And at a certain point, like I said, it just snowballs. It just keeps going and going and going and going. And like an evil Energizer bunny. Even if you're away from person A, even if you don't see person A for days, this will no longer stop. It will just keep rolling and rolling. So that's what I've noticed as well. Like, it would just keep on going and going and going. And it is an uphill battle. It's like an uphill battle combined with a mudslide and quicksand all at the same time. Probably an avalanche and some hail in there too, with a blizzard. It is so difficult and so exhausting, and it's so hard to fight it. But every time I do have these situations, I do fight it every time, because I know they're wrong. Do I win? I've never won. I've never won the fight. What happens is what I've learned is I have learned to just shorten it, to not make it extreme, to not make it worse than it has been before. And every single time I am so depleted, and there have been times that I'm so frustrated that I just start crying, because it's so frustrating and exhausting. You know how, I don't know if everybody has done it, but sometimes in your life you go through either emotional or physical hardship, in which maybe you're doing something physical for 12 straight hours that you're so exhausted that you just start crying, or you're just emotionally exhausted. I can compare it to losing people I care about, like family and friends, and you lose them, and that pain, that and the emotional drain to it, or the emotional weight on it, is so severe that it just makes you start crying. That's what I can kind of compare it to. However, what you're experiencing at the moment isn't really that extreme. It's not like a full day's labor, like, or maybe 12, 14 straight hours that you're constantly doing hardcore labor and you've never done it before, something that extreme. It's just some weird statement, some weird comment that might be slightly offensive, or slightly irritating, but to you it is heightened to an extreme. So that has been one of my biggest struggles as well, probably after the memory. I've never felt that kind of anger before, ever. And it does still happen from time to time, and it's been 2 years, maybe a little bit more. It has still happened from time to time, but I have managed to kind of not make it last as long as it used to be. Before, it would just, oh my gosh, the way I get angry, it would last like an hour, half hour, and I would just be fuming and boiling and fanning myself because it just felt, my body was just, it felt really hot. So I'm still battling with that. I'm still trying to fix my memory as well, and that one too. It's been hard for me to let go of a lot of things. Someone says something and I react to that, and it's something offensive to me at the moment. It takes me a while to let it go. I will hold on to it for days and weeks and months. I might not react to it, but I will hold on to it. Like, it would just keep on replaying in my head over and over and over again. Person C did this to you and it hurt your feelings. And that would just be a replay every time I remember it. Maybe every day, maybe every other day, maybe once a week. But every time I remember it, even though that the gap of the time that I remember the first time, the second time, the third time might be, hours, days, weeks, months, the intensity of my reaction and how upset I get is always going to be similar as when I got it the first time, or it gets worse. It never gets better. It's never like, oh yeah, I'm over that and everything. If it does, it's kind of further down the line, and it probably is longer than a year. But for now, what I've noticed is that it would just replay in my head over and over and over again, as if it just happened 5 seconds ago. It's very strange, but you can't control it. I've been trying to fight it. I've been trying to control that because I know it's not what I'm used to, and I know that's not part of who I am and my personality. And it's still been an uphill battle. So those are my biggest struggles. If I did forget something, it's probably because my memory is not that great. The pain that I experienced, I don't experience them anymore. So the headaches lasted several months. I don't really like taking medication, especially that type of medication, because when I would take it, if I don't eat anything with it, my stomach hurts a lot. And I was told that I did need to eat it because it would hurt so bad that it would be a different kind of pain, and I'm already battling the pain in my head. So I made sure I was eating when I would take my medication. So that was also really hard, because sometimes you're in a situation in which your head just starts to hurt, but there's no instant access for food. That made me learn that I needed to have some kind of food, some kind of snack, something at me at all times. I have here changes. There's some changes that still haven't gone back to how I've used to be, completely to 100%. I've worked so hard on trying to go back to how I've used to be. I'm still not there. It's still a struggle for me. And, you know, I'm taking 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. I'm not there yet, but I'm, you know, after all this, being an optimist and always looking at the glass half full, I'm really, really glad that that's still, I'm getting all emotional. I don't know if it's the pregnancy hormones or from the concussion as well. But also, if I forgot to mention that, you get to be very moody and very emotional as well. You just cry out of nowhere, and it's always like crying. It's always a lot of crying, which is very strange. I think I've cried the most after I had my concussion versus my entire life. So anyway, the changes are in my personality. There's been significant changes in regards to that. Just the extremities, the reaction and the extreme reactions. I don't even know if, I mean, especially back then, that there's anything that would categorize as just being upset. I think it went from 0 to anger. I have noticed lately, though, maybe the past less than a year, maybe several months, that I have noticed that I do get upset now, instead of just jumping from 0 to anger to like a cartoon villain or like a summer blockbuster villain, like that pumped up anger. Now I kind of feel smaller emotions, smaller reactions, like getting upset a little bit and just not getting, you know, crazy angry. Or maybe I'll just get my feelings hurt, and just walk away instead of reacting so volatile. Volatile would be, I'd probably raise my voice, or my face just gets really hot and I will start to react verbally, even if it's not raising my voice. It's just, to me, it's still extreme though. To me, it's still extreme because I was never like that. And I usually never really cared a lot to fight, but it just, there's a lot of negativity and a lot of anger and a lot of extreme anger that comes with it. So if you know anybody who's gone through a head trauma, especially if it's one of them, sometimes some people would have head trauma and it would be more than just a concussion. If a concussion is a part of that, I know you have your own life, and I know you don't deserve to be mistreated, but you also have to understand that these situations and these reactions are uncontrollable. These are in a part of someone's mind that just unleashes itself with no permission whatsoever, with no logic whatsoever, with no rationality whatsoever. It just comes out. And right now I'm already feeling a little bit weepy, just because I know that there are certain situations that I probably reacted to an extreme level that I know was wrong, and I know before I had my concussion that I never would have reacted that way. Before I start probably crying, because I'm remembering certain scenarios that I probably shouldn't have reacted in that particular way, but I did, and it does still bother me because I remember them, and I know I probably shouldn't have done that. But anyway, I did finish everything that I noted down that I wanted to discuss. So this is the end of my video, and I'm sorry for getting all emotional. But I hope you did benefit and like my video and sharing my personal experience with my head trauma, my accident, and my concussion story. I hope you give it a thumbs up. And if you know anybody there, if you experience anything similar, or if you know anybody that has experienced it and they're not understanding what's going on in their life right now, I hope this will benefit whoever needs it. Maybe a loved one from someone who had an accident, or that person itself. You're not alone, and it's a fight. It's a very difficult fight, and I'm still fighting it every day. I do it every day. There hasn't been a day that I've just said, you know what, I think I'm just gonna give up and just give in to all of this. No, I've fought it all the way. And before I start crying like a hormonal and just crying too much, I just hope that there's someone out there that's also probably struggling like I am. Maybe, you're kind of fresh from it, or you've had it longer and you're still having the same things. You're not alone. I'm doing it every day, and I hope you did. I hope someone did, and it's hard for me to say enjoy, because this is such a difficult part of my life, and it's still, it's my daily life now. I do hope that someone out there does get something positive out of this, that they feel like they're not the only ones, or they're a loved one, and they just felt like they lost the person. Please don't give up on them, and they're trying their very best, and hopefully you stay and help them, and always put it in your head that there's something that you could do as well. You could help them, you could be there, you could just hug them and comfort them, and that would mean so much. So I don't know if anybody wants to give a thumbs up, but if you will, it's still very welcome. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you just want to say hi, feel free to do that in the comment section below. I know this is a different video than what I usually do. I just kind of thought, the premise of my channel is to help everybody. I know most of the stuff that I put out there is usually based on brands and experiences, services, and products. But I just kind of thought, if someone can benefit from this, I know that will make me happy. That will make me very happy. So thank you so much for the time that you have spent with me and watched my entire video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much again. And I hope you like my video or my other videos, that you would subscribe to my channel. Thank you again, and have a good one. Bye.